Restoring Men in History. So you've heard it said today, January 20th. Saw the speech, fantastic. Trump was exceptional. His speech was phenomenal. Just a great, inspiring and aspirational and a speech of action. We're going to give you a couple of clips, but I think I just want to pull, we just watched it. I just wanted to see some of my favorite points of the speech as I watched it. And I've got the speech here in front of me, so we'll pull some of my favorite ones. We might play one or two clips, but I really want to make it more about these fantastic comments and the actions that he's going to take for you Americans. And you know what he does in this speech? He loves you and America and Americans, and you get it. Who's he doing it for? You. Let's go to clip one.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
What a phenomenal line he said. The golden age of America starts right now. And what would that mean and how would that come about? Well, he's going to go through it in this speech, but I'll say something at the first. If we can decrease, and we can, because nothing's impossible, right? He says in that speech, nothing's impossible to you Americans. Through time, we have done it over and over. And he says, what does he say? How do we get that back? I tie it to the American dream. Do you want the American dream back? We'll move more toward it with the things we can do. Decreasing the size and scope of government will do what? Lower your bills, make life better at the kitchen table, Mark McNabb, right? You want to soar, you want to bring back the American dream, you got to reduce inflation. You've got to do that by reducing government deficits, debt, and spending. That's the major thing. You got to cut that budget. And I'm excited about DOGE and cutting that budget. If we can cut the budget and then have Congress pass laws, what else do we need to do? Cut out all the unconstitutional agencies, end those unconstitutional agencies, and restore the Constitution. Restore America, restore the Constitution. Restore it, baby. I'm excited tonight. Got a cigar ready for right after shooting this to smoke and enjoy. Hey, America is back. So why are things so expensive? Well, we just went through that. Your purchasing power decreases. It doesn't increase if the government's spending too much money, and your standard of living goes what? Declines. So what all the departments can we in? Department of Education, we've been through them before. EPA can be limited and returned to the states. You don't need the EPA. Department of Agriculture and many, many more will make your life better. How do we make your life better? Reducing regulations of all kinds so you can go start businesses and get going, men, and build things and create things like the people he talked about in this speech before you, the cowboys, the ranchers, and all the people that went before you that built things, created things, produced things. We want you to produce things, men. We want you to reach your potential and be your best. Decrease regulations so you can flourish and go to new heights. And then encourage Congress to pass laws that define that we're following the Constitution from now on, and we will not restart these unconstitutional agencies ever again. That these powers belong to the states, not to the federal government. If they're not enumerated, you cannot have a constitutional agency. And you can't have any agency writing laws because that's our job, Congress. Spell it out. Congress can spell that out. And we talked about this a lot. America first. He says it. He means it. Doing what you say. Donald Trump's going to do what he said. But he needs your support, right? He's going to have the people behind him. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. You know how many times I mentioned American sovereignty in 2015 when Trump was running, that we needed to reclaim our American sovereignty, our sovereignty? And he says we'll no longer be taken advantage of. The world's taking advantage of us. Climate accords. I think he's already signing in an executive action today. UN, WHO, these agencies, these international organizations do not rule over you. You know what rules us? Our Constitution, and you, the people. We, the people, and we have a Constitution that we need to follow again, and we need to restore it. These international globalist agencies are not for you and America. And we don't need them pushing their narratives and their policies on us. Forget their narratives and their policies. The World Bank, the IMF, all these international organizations must be examined. He says he'll put America first. Isn't that what all statesmen should be doing? But we have politicians that seem to be enriching themselves at your expense, and you've seen it over and over and over. Look at the COVID. Look at before COVID. Look at the actions of the Fed. Whom are they helping? Who got super wealthy during COVID and who got super poor? They keep our border open, but close theirs. Ukraine, crazy Ukraine madness, sending all that money to Ukraine while you suffer. Their actions speak loudly that they're not America first. Their actions. And he brought these words, and the language is important. Trump is a master of using the words in the correct language for certain situations. He was attacked for being America first from both sides, Republicans and Democrats, by pundits, by never Trumpers. Now, he talks about seizing the opportunity in this speech, and I like that because you, as Americans, also need to seize this opportunity. Right? If you seize this opportunity and you get behind Trump and you primary the people that oppose him, if they're opposing him on the Constitution and decreasing the policies he went for, in other words, not if he's, if he's sticking with what he got mandated for an election, securing the border, decreasing the size and scope of government, and people and politicians don't get behind him, they need to be primary. And this can happen too. England can watch. The residents of California can watch and change their ways. Europe can watch and take the lead from Donald Trump. I think this is one of the greatest things that could happen all over the world. He's a very strong leader. And if other countries will follow him, if they choose to, it's their sovereignty. I'm not in their sovereignty now. The English people should do what they want. The French people should do what they want. I'm just saying they could. Okay, I'm not going to tell those countries what to do. I'm into American sovereignty and doing what we need to do for you, Americans. Now watch this. He says this today. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. We don't trust these organizations. For many years, a radical and corrupt, he calls it out, this is bold, a corrupt establishment with everybody sitting right there, by the way. Remember whom he's talking to. A lot of the corruption's right there, right? I mean, at least some of it, right? For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens, while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. So this is a big thing. We do have a crisis in corruption, and we've seen it. We can go through it. COVID. By the way, Dr. Fauci getting pardoned. We know what he did with AIDS. We know what he did through COVID. We know all the corruption there. We know how he testified to Rand Paul in Congress. Okay? People have suffered far worse fates than Fauci. And why was he the highest paid continually? How much money has he made from this? Who has benefited? Dr. Fauci, not his patients, right? Not his not Americans, right? And he says it really good, has extracted power and wealth from our citizens. So I think that's a key to listen to and hear. So what do we need? We're going to have not revenge. The left keeps trying to call it revenge. If you've broken the law continually and you've caused millions of Americans, not one person, not one friend, not one person, millions of people to suffer from your government position, from your bureaucracy that you got paid for, we need justice on that, right? So that it doesn't happen again. Why? Justice so that it doesn't happen again, not for revenge. So that you Americans don't suffer like you did during COVID again. So all the corruptions, whether it be in elections or COVID or whatever the fraud is, or Ukraine, it does need to be investigated and searched out. And the sheriffs need to do their job at their state levels and county levels for the election fraud, right? Sheriffs have to be vigilant. You, the people, have to be vigilant and ask them about it, right? It's about you, the people, too, right? All of this is also not just about Trump. It's about you, the people. What are you going to demand? What are you going to ask for peacefully and lawfully from your representatives? From your sheriffs? Are you going to ask them to investigate election integrity, your DAs? We now have a government that cannot manage. This is great. This is one of the best speeches. It's fantastic. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling, that's a great word, right? Stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events. I mean, California is amazing. They can't do anything, right? These fires again, and we predicted this would happen 6 years ago when we had a bad one out there. It fails to protect our magnificent law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions. What other country would do this crazy thing? Well, you got a lot of this going on in Europe, but nevertheless, we don't want to do it as Americans. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to defense of foreign borders. Crazy, right? But refuses to defend American borders. That's nuts, right, Kurt? Kurt and I have talked a lot about the border years and years ago. Or more importantly, its own people. Right, if leaders love you, they take care of them. Your great leaders take care of their people first, right, Matt? Great leaders take care of their people. That's great leadership. These guys, by their actions, have not and do not. Ukraine madness. They've so Mitch McConnell and everybody else so into Ukraine. Why? Who's benefiting from that? Where's the corruption? Where is the corruption? So the corruption, sex trafficking, the border. So he promised a secure border, and we're going to secure the border now. And we know this was designed and planned out. We know there are NGOs behind this border crisis, right? It's not just by accident. And the plan has worked well. Inspirational. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Is that fantastic? Our liberties and our nation's glories. I love when we use the word liberties. Secure government's for that, right? Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty. And I like how this went together of America's government. And I love these two words here, competency, but he also adds another word. What does he add? Loyalty. Because if it's by design, it's not just incompetency. It's that you don't have loyalty to your state, to your country, to your constitution, and you're not doing your duty right. There's more to it, because you ought to have loyalty to your country and to the Constitution and to your people. Great leaders would have loyalty to their people. And not to whom? The UN, NATO, Ukraine, and others, right? Your loyalty lies with Americans and America, not foreign countries, NATO, the WHO, and we're not going to take direction from them, right? And I love this line. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. Love that to me. This was fantastic. I'm glad that we're doing this video right after it because it's fresh in my mind, and just saw Trump give this fantastic speech. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged. Has he not been challenged? God has put him through it and made him greater. Put him through the fire. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and he has. And I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one. Well, you have the whole establishment fighting you, and the whole globalist fighting, all of the globalists fighting, all these NGOs and organizations. You're going to have a hard time. What's he got? You, the American people. And I can tell you, those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. They did. Tried to take his life. Lawfare, tried to take ruin him financially, ruin his reputation. They've done everything to this man. And he fought for you. And he stood for you and America and the Constitution. Do you remember where you were July 13th? I will never forget it. But he says this, in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin bullet ripped through my ear, but I felt then and believe even more so now that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. He has a great purpose larger than himself, and men need that, and he has it. And he knows God saved him. He knows whom saved him. God. And with God, nothing is impossible, right? So all these things seem big. The establishment's against it. But the amazing hero, Donald Trump, kept going for you and this country. He didn't have to do it. So he had all the resilience, courage. And if you men, if you take on these virtues, you can get through it. He also had God, right? But if you have these virtues in God, you can get through a lot. Now watch this. This is another fantastic, great clip moment. We're not going to play the clip. I just wanted to give you this. We will not forget our country. We will not forget our Constitution. And we will not forget our God. Can't do that. We were founded, the United States of America, on Christian values, and he does not leave God out. Restoring our nation, restoring our country, restoring our Constitution. You get Constitution, God, country right, and you can turn this whole thing around. Teaching values and virtues in the homes, teaching the Constitution, and that's up to you, the people, and me. It's up to us too. Trump can't do it all. He can lay it out. But we've got to teach country, Constitution, God in the home, right? Or at least do unto others and virtues. All right, actions. This is also an action speech, so it's inspirational, it's aspirational, and it's an action speech. This is great. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. Right, because before we've called it an invasion. It's an invasion, it's design. It's funded. The invasion at the southern border is an invasion that's funded. He's taking action, not just sitting. Day one, hour one. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back. How about that, Art? To the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. By the way, we talked about this policy. It worked. We called it out months and months ago, again, saying we've gone away from that by design. I will end the practice of catch and release. Common sense. And I will send troops to the southern border. The man's serious. And what is he doing? He's doing what he said. And watch for the words he used. This is important. Send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Invasion, key word, and I read about it in the Constitution. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating, get this, the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Goodbye to a lot of that sex trafficking. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I just wanted to do this, but I did the Sedition Act of 1798. It's on a video you can grab. But basically, to make this brief, because we got a lot to cover, the Enemies Act of 1798, presidents have used, Congress passed a law, right? 1798. John Adams signed it. He was the president at the time. Federalists were in control of the House and the Senate. They passed it. That's who did it. Madison, Wilson, FDR, and Truman have all used it. And it gives the president, during war or an invasion, a lot of power to deport people. So there's the gist of it. Maybe we'll bring back a video and do the whole thing and read the National Archives, or maybe we'll put the National Archives up here real quick for a second. As well, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and, get this, I like this word, criminal networks. Because, you know, there's a lot of criminal networks involved in the sex trafficking and everything else. And where are they all at? Are we going to get the Epstein list? All right, criminal networks, Epstein, P. Diddy, all that's going to come out, I think. Criminal networks right here, and who's involved in that, and how many people, and how much corruption. This goes all the way back up to corruption and justice versus revenge. All right, talks about what we talk about now. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices. Look, if you want a great economy, you want the American dream, Mark McNabb. If you want the American dream, you got to do what? Decrease energy prices and decrease prices at the table. So that what? You can save, spend less, and you have more purchasing power. Things are cheaper, you got more purchasing power, right, Mark? If we want the American dream again, we've got a lot of work to do, including with the Fed. But drill, baby, drill, he says here. Cheers, 3 cheers, drill, baby, drill. And that will make energy, right? If trucks are driving on cheaper gasoline and diesel, you're going to have cheaper food prices, right? So better for you. This is a huge action. You want in a first world country to have cheap energy, as cheap as it can be. And Trump is for cheap energy, not the crazy green climate stuff that costs you. And get this, here's a great one. Ready? With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal. Let's call it the Green Tyrant Deal, because it's really for tyrants and hurting you. And we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate. Yes, I like my V8. I love it. By the way, I want to make the choice, and he says that here, and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American Auto Works. In other words, he says, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice, and why shouldn't we? If we want to smoke a certain cigar, we should smoke it. If we want to drive a V8 and an SUV and a big, huge piece of machinery, we should be able to drive it. See, he's for choice at least. And we want choice. We want to give you more choices Most of the Democrats and the left and the Uniparty want to take away choices. And by the way, this is a key, ending those unconstitutional agencies. If something needs to be done, it needs to be done at the state level, not the federal agency. So you could say, hey, we need that agency. No, we can end so many of those agencies, Department of Agriculture and all the ATF, and a lot of these agencies can be in it. FBI needs to be looked at and only go into a federal building if they are going to exist. But they need to be looked at and downsized. So anyway, we can take care of this. And this is a fantastic thing. What does it do? It gives you more freedom and puts it back to the states. If it wasn't an enumerated power, and if it's not written in the Constitution, that agency does not need to exist. And it's unconstitutional. And look at the mess they've made with the weaponization of the FBI. Look what happened with that. So we are the choice party, the freedom and choice party. They're trying to force people to drive a certain electric car. Can you believe that? This is a really big point. They wanted to force you to drive an electric car and then be able to cut it off when they wanted to, and then charge you for energy as much as they want on that. In the Department of Commerce as well, you can do that. We were supposed to make commerce easier, not more difficult. They made it more difficult, and you should have a competitive advantage if you pick a certain state. Look, we got to get rid of all these federal regulations, and then you'll see true competition with states. Right now, they're getting boosted by the federal government. Here's a key. Here's a very big key, Jeff, Brian. Look, when you do things from the federal level, what happens? You live in California, Alabama, Tennessee, certain states, if they're not regulations from the federal government, will have advantages for you to do business there. And then you can move with your feet to do better business and have higher gross profits and net profits, right? So we don't want to make business more difficult. We don't want regulations from the federal government where they're not enumerated powers. Or we want them in the states if you're going to need something. External Revenue Service. This is a good one. Collects all tariffs, duties, and revenues. For a long time in this country, we survived on tariffs. With this, you can lower the tax rates way, way, way down. We survived on a long time. Lincoln wanted a tax. Theodore Roosevelt, 2 Republicans wanted taxes. And we changed with the 16th Amendment, brought in the income tax, right? Now watch this. We talk about this all the time. This is one of our big points. And this guy is fantastic. This is great right here. I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Now look, Mike Johnson needs to pass a law that calls out what the FBI and all these agencies have done. This needs to be done by Congress and official. But Trump can stop the executive agencies from doing it, right? He can tell them not to do it because they're the ones breaking the Constitution. They've been breaking the First Amendment. We know it. Mark Zuckerberg just said it. We had the Twitter files already. So we know the federal government was meant to be restrained by the First Amendment, and they're the ones that have been breaking it. So this is fine. And you should get a Congress to write a law that says never again do this, or you lose, or this is the penalty, right, Jeff? We need a penalty, right? So if they ever do it again, what should happen to the person? What do you think? Should they lose their pension? Should they be fired? Should they go to prison? Congress needs to write that into law. First Amendment was Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. So this is where they should have been anyway. And all those people should be punished for breaking it. Everybody went to Twitter, everybody went to Facebook and coerced them and broke the First Amendment. Shouldn't have been there. Shouldn't have been doing it. It's just dreadful. All right, here's another good point. This week, this guy is on top of it. He's bringing back the meritocracy, Tara. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect. And we're sick of it, right? You're sick of it. I'm sick of it. Of public and private life. We will forge, I love the word forge, a society, that's a masculine term, a society that is colorblind and merit-based. We want it to be merit-based, right? Not actually racist and sexist the other way. Not actually just racist and sexist. If you're discriminating against a certain race or color, that's the discrimination. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders. Wait a minute. Cheers, Jeff. Male and female. That's it. 2 sexes, male and female, 2 genders. Call it what you want. 2. Male and female. That's it. And here's an inspiring piece that the Uniparty neocons hate. It's what got Trump in trouble. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. How about that? That is fantastic. We're not neocons. We don't want to be over there operating, getting people killed, and spending your money to make life hard at the kitchen table and changing the social order by going to wars that we don't need to be in. He wants to be a peacemaker and a unifier. Get out of all those wars. Get out of Ukraine. We're going to be changing. This is a great one. This is fantastic. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Is that beautiful? This guy fantastic. This guy is just amazing. And we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley. Hey, Mater McKinley's in the group. He's related to the president, where it should be and where it belongs. So here's to McKinley and here's to Mater McKinley out there. China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. Strong, bold leadership, action. Again, this is an action. Now, I said this was a good line. This is another fantastic line. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. Americans took risks. The Pilgrims took a risk. They crossed desert, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom. Look at all you men done. Launched mankind into the heavens and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there's nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Aspirational and also true, factual. We've done it before. We can do it again. You, the American people, can do anything. I believe in you. He believes in you. You, the American people, can achieve so much more. We get the regulations off your back. You can start new businesses. We decrease the size and scope of government. You can start new businesses. You can have more at the kitchen table, and we can chase the American dream and restore it again, perhaps. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage a historic political comeback. I was told this over and over and over. Chuck, Trump can't win by Republicans. In text, over and over and over and over by a lot of the same people for a long time and forever, all the way through this year and face to face. But he did it, and I knew he could do it. We had a victory party, an awesome victory party. But here I am. The American people have spoken. I stand before you now to prove. I stand before you now, and it's proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. This is one of my favorite lines, because I believe anything's possible for us as Americans. In America, the impossible is what we do best. That's a fantastic line, and I love it. In America, the impossible is what we do best. Now, so we just talked about all these things that we want done. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly. Are you dreaming boldly today? I am so fired up. And nothing will stand in our way, because why? We are Americans. The future is ours, and the golden age has just begun. And he says, thank you, God bless you. But what will it take? You, the people, have to demand it and get behind him peacefully and lawfully. You got to go to your congressmen, write them. You got to go to their offices and visit them in a nice and kind way and ask them, look, I want you to help Trump's agenda. I want you to secure the border. I want you to decrease the size and scope of government so my children and grandchildren can have a better life, so I can have more purchasing power at the kitchen table, so my standard of living can increase, and so we can restore the American dream again. And I want you to deal with the Fed eventually. And I want you to deal with these unconstitutional agencies so we have more money in our pocket, and so we have more freedom, and so we don't have all these rules and regulations to hold us back. And we should never have an agency, an unconstitutional agency, writing laws. Who writes laws? The Congress does. I'm passionate about this country. I love America. I love Americans. The men in the groups are outstanding. They enrich me. I love this country. You got to get behind him, though. One man can't do it. One man can do a lot. Look at all he's accomplished. He's going to have you, the people, the primary people that get involved in local elections, so the local communities are supporting everything and this agenda and this plan and lay it out. You have a president who loves America and Americans. Now it's up to you to support him, back him up peacefully and lawfully, and go do what you need to do. Be vigilant, be active, be brave. Thank you.